represents one of the most northerly patches of savanna that exists in the lowland situation. And also the term savanna is sometimes misleading because it's savanna landscape rather than just grasses and trees. And if you think of savanna as a landscape, then it should include things like gallery forest, which goes through savanna, but which really isn't a savanna plant or set of plants. Well, it's maintained largely by fire. If there wasn't fire, there probably wouldn't be savanna. So you can say that savanna landscapes are fire-adapted landscapes.
Less than 17% of the Belize environment is pine savanna, and much of that has been altered or has plans to be developed.
Today, the threats are because the savannas are not perceived, as I said earlier, as being important. They're not perceived as having any real value, so therefore why not just burn it, use it for pasture, clear it for agriculture, do whatever, build on it.
Well, savanna is a very important ecosystem as well. It's something that is, it's an ecosystem that is very poorly understood. And Program for Belize has like 25,000 acres of pine savanna.
This is now what we have representative of the Rio Bravo. And again, in terms of importance and significance, it's 4% of the landmass of the country of Belize. And in terms of protected areas, it's the largest private protected area in the country. Program for Belize is an NGO, it's a not-for-profit organization. It is Belizean. We have a Belizean board of directors who run and govern the organization in terms of the overall goals and objectives in ensuring that PFB remains committed to what its mission is, and again our core mission is the conservation and sustainable management of the RBCMA or the Rio Bravo area and any other lands that may be entrusted to PFB over time. One of the important programs that we have identified is the activities related to the Yellow Headed Parrot program.
This very beautiful parrot is an endangered species, and so our main purpose is to try to increase the population of this parrot, and by doing so we need to protect the area that they inhabit, and that's the pine savanna where they would do their nest and have their youngs or their chicks.
So if somebody were to say, what is the value of savanna as far as wildlife is concerned, they probably would come up with the yellow-headed parrot. And that's really because of the effectiveness of the propaganda about it. That doesn't mean to say it isn't important, it's just that that's the one species which is always cited.
These are endemic to Belize, only we have them. There's yellow-headed parrots in Guatemala, in Honduras, and in other countries, but not like our birds. They don't mimic like our birds.
Yellow-headed parrots they're interesting birds in Belize, are an endemic. They're one of the few yellowhead species that nest in pine trees. But given that,
people have millions of young trees, and there are not going to be any parrots in them. First of all, they don't have no feeding source, and they don't have enough cavity for the birds to nest in. And that's one of the problems. And then we have the fires.
Poaching again is a real problem with yellowheads.
Their nests have been destroyed by fire, people setting fire on the pine ridge, and those coming to do poaching, they don't only climb the tree, they fall it down, and they're destroying the habitats or the nests of the yellow-headed parrot.
If the birds come back for the next season and they don't have a nest, they won't nest that year. They're going to spend all that time trying to find another nest for the next year. Or they might end up laying very late and the eggs would spoil, like what happened, some of it happened this year.
Unfortunately, working against that species is that Belizeans love it. That's the poly, that's the bird that talks, that's the one that is sought after for local pets.
The yellow-headed parrot is different from other parrots not because they're beautiful, but because they can mimic the human.
It could actually mimic your song of your voice.
As all around, mostly with our citizens, they like to have yellow-headed parrots at home.
It's a sociable bird. If you get too close to that bird, it's hard for you to leave it, and it won't leave you. It's something that becomes a part of your family. And then what happens is that people come in and they see this and they learn this. And I'm talking about visitors, tourists. And they see this and they learn this and they're like, you know, this is what we need. And they would pay anything to get one of these birds back home.
Many of them die in transit, but that's a business that keep on going because people can get upwards of $100 per parrot.
That's where it gets started, and you take one home, and your friends come in and see it, and they're like, well, I could get one. And you can say, well, you know what, I know this guy in Belize that could get any amount for us. And so you start your business out there. And that's how it got to this extent.
Because we are very short of yellow-headed parrots right now. Even though this year, like as far as I'm concerned, the rangers have a report that it has been slowed down in poaching the parrots. But since if outside they start buying, they continue buying, then they will still continue coming in. We are losing a lot of chicks because there have been increased poaching because of our limited human resources when it comes to protecting the pine savanna. It's a huge area. We have lost upwards of 80% or more, right? And again, as I mentioned before, it's due to the limitation when it comes to not only human resources but equipment and getting out there doing their job.
We need to try to get these birds back. And the only way to get them back is within a reserve area that we can try to protect. There's no fence. And then we have 8 rangers for 260,000 acres of land. And then we have 3 gates.
Just giving a general perspective on what we're referring to, the Rio Bravo is about 260,000 acres in size. Now, that in and of itself represents 125 miles of boundary line that you're talking about because of the design and the shape of the property that has to be manned or monitored on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year basis. Of that 125, there's actually about 75 miles of boundary line that's critical, that is crucial to monitoring and being manned and being patrolled, especially in the dry season that our guys need to contend with. So we have 3 gates that are entry gates that the guys will man on a 24/7 basis. So there's a ranger or rangers that are posted at these gates on a daily basis. And then beyond that, we have to deploy the other 7 guys to be able to man 75 miles. And again, resources available to them only include ATVs that we may have. In instances, we're using bicycles to be able to move around.
But I think much more have to be done in the conservation, and that is why we need some more resources, especially in the area of patrolling, where we have to cover a total acreage of 260,000. That's a big amount for only 8 rangers, and mostly now we are very short of 2 more, so that we only left with 6.
As an NGO, it's always difficult to find the funding to sustain an operation like that, because part of the problem is that the nesting season of the parrot is actually coinciding with the dry season. And again, the parrots nest specifically in the savanna areas of the property, which by nature of the dry season become accessible by the open-ended areas that could be used by hunters and poachers who come in.
Our limitation with ranger is our biggest setback. We need more manpower on the ground in order to protect this 4% of Belize that we call the Rio Bravo Conservation Management Area. So that is what I would need. I would need more person on the grounds in the hotspots to mitigate incursion to your property, to mitigate poaching, hunting, illegal logging, and all the other activities that we encounter in this property.
In total, if we could have at least 12 or 10 at least, then we could have always 2 assigned to that project when the year comes. Every time of the year when parroting are starting to mate and do nesting.
We've been able to successfully add 2 additional guys through the help of the EWCL in this past season, which is the Emerging Wildlife Conservation Leaders Group, with funding from the Minnesota Zoo. That small funding allowed us to put 2 additional guys on the ground for the entire dry season.
Due to donor funding, especially this year, we have a turnaround where the loss is very minimal. You know, I would say in my estimation it's like 5% of all the chicks that was hatched this year were stolen.
if this continues, if we have continue and get support and more support, there's great future for the yellow-headed parrots. I mean, I've seen the yellow-headed parrot goes from 200 pairs to over 1,000 pairs now. It's at like 4 or 5 times the amount of birds, and I'm positive of that. You know, I could follow that up with proof, with data proof, right? So it is there, but it has to be maintained. You know, you cannot say, well, oh, when it's over. No. And if we could have equipment and things in place, that you don't have to be trying to grab that every year and try to see who's going to buy this and who's going to get that, it will continue. It will continue, but we can never stop with education. Education is one of the biggest things. And we're not putting enough into education.
Anything can change with education.
The other part of it is to actually go into the community and try to educate the younger ones and the adults and the entire community about the plight of this parrot and why they should not poach or have these parrots as their pets.
We need to stop these people that are buying them, stop these people that are taking them out, and it has to start even from in the States. You know, we need to have people tracking these people down. Who have them, who are selling them, you know. Say like, you know, you guys are not only causing problems with the bird population, you're causing problems for the people of Belize in the sense that these people are trying so hard to stop this thing from going on.
We're hoping that we're at that point one day where we can be bringing in hundreds of kids on a yearly basis into the property to educate those kids and their parents, and again by extension the parents of those folks.
In the case of the famous pine savanna of Belize, with its endangered species of parrot, if you can manage by any means whatsoever of maintaining the largest area of that habitat, do so. Make an effort to reconstitute it. For a country like Belize, that's hard financially, but for those who give to the purpose of global conservation, and to those governments that have foreign aid policy that includes conservation of the biosphere, and they all should have, there is no better place to put money than into saving these rich environments that are being nibbled away, and even to set into motion the restoration of them. And this, I guarantee you, will be the act that the 22nd century will most appreciate from us.
I love America, her secrets safe with me. Girl, you'll be my supermodel, although you have a reputation. Can I afford to move above my station? I'm not the only heart you conquered, and I love America, but boy, can she be cruel. Without her platform shoes. Oh, Supergirl, you'll be my supermodel, although at times it might seem awkward. Don't run away, oh, don't you recognize me? I'm not the only heart you've conquered, and